Hello everyone, this is Raven here, taking a look at the Dark Elves campaign playthrough part 2 for the battle segment today. So just going ahead and letting this video go on. It's muted because right now we don't need to hear the caster. I have myself to talk. So looking at the city, it's absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful aesthetics, beautiful color schemes, just loving everything the High Elves have to offer as in terms of views anyway. So beautiful stuff. I'm loving this, especially because we have like little settlement battles here. It's a little bit new flavor. For what the map looks like, because it's not a walled settlement, so we're not going to be seeing anything like a siege gameplay. So it's just going to be a straight out, fisticuffs fight on the field. So that's going to be pretty cool. We're going to be seeing lots of interesting models coming out today, and a new unit finally from the High Elves, which is going to be the Moon Dragon. So it's already been revealed that the Sun, Moon, and Star Dragon are in the game, but this is the first time we're seeing anything other than the Sun Dragon. And here we go with the unit cards. So let's go ahead and take a pause here. Take a look at some of the abilities Malekith has. Now, I don't think he has any items that are going to be affecting his stats in this game. I believe they would have taken them all off so we can understand like what we're seeing. Oh, excuse me, I right-clicked there by accident. So he has a physical resistance right here. That's pretty important to note because he also has 90 armor and is silver shielded. So he's going to be blocking 55% of all missiles coming at him. So he's going to be pretty tanky. Especially mixed in with that 55 melee defense, he's going to be dodging a lot of attacks and hitting quite often with 65 melee attack. However, 420 weapon strength, especially with no armor-piercing symbol right here, means he's not going to be hitting that hard, especially against heavily armored lords or heavily armored targets. So it's pretty important to note that fighting other units, especially like single-target entities that are heavily armored, is not going to be a strong point for him. Even though he does have really high weapon strength, so fighting people that are unarmored is definitely going to be something important, and he's not a duelist, so he does have high splash damage. So fighting lords and giant like infantry blobs is something that you don't want him to do, even though he'll be able to tank out a lot of the damage that's being done to him. It's not what he's going to be best at, so keep that in mind. He'll probably have a niche up against like fighting units like Goblin Big Bosses with their low armor, or the Khainite Assassin even that the Dark Elves have, because he only has 30 armor, so sniping out like mages and stuff like that, he's going to be absolutely beautiful at doing until you put him on a mount like the dragon, but I really wouldn't suggest that against factions that have air superiority over the Dark Elves, because as far as I know, the Dark Elves only have their Dark Dragon and Harpies as their air force, so going against units like, or races like Bretonnia, with their Pegasus Knights and their Hippogriff mounts, things like that, it's going to be a bad time. That is a faction you do not want to use the dragon against because it could be shut down extremely hard and you just lose your lord as soon as the battle starts pretty much. So pretty important to keep that in mind. So moving on, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Witch Elves who are next, I believe. And taking a look at them, they have pretty good stats. So physical resistance, but only 10 armor, so 5 less than your War Dancers from the Wood Elves, but they'll be functioning much in the same way. So I'm not sure what this little icon is right here. I'm not sure what this does. I'm pretty sure it's tied into the Madness of Cain. So we'll see what that actually does for them. And they have a bonus versus infantry. I'm assuming it's going to be like 5 to 10 or something like that. Maybe more. Depends on like how much they give them as how much I expect them to do on the battlefield. But right now they're going to be doing a lot of work, especially with that bonus versus infantry, no matter how big or small. So charge bonus of 24 is pretty good, so you're going to want to make sure that they actually get their charges off. And I'm not sure how this dodge ability works out, because they've talked about dodge abilities before on the Witch Elves and Gutter Runners and Night Runners and stuff like that for the Skaven, but they don't actually ever say how it works. They just say it makes them better at dodging missile attacks, but they never exactly explain how that plays in, or like what % of missiles they'll actually be dodging. So I really want them to highlight that and show me the details, but they never do, which is unfortunate. And they do have Murderous Mastery down here, so they're going to be getting a big boon once that purple bar fills up at the top for their melee stats, so they'll become monsters in combat if they're still alive. And they do have Frenzy, which isn't active yet because the battle is still technically paused because he hasn't hit start battle yet. But once they do, their stats are going to go up quite substantially, so good stuff coming out of these Witch Elves. Moving on, taking a look at the Black Guard of Nagarond over here. Now these infantry are going to be just beautiful. Oh my god, they're going to be so good in game, because as you can see down here, they have a immune to psychology, so fear and terror will not seize these units. They will be in the front line for forever. 90 leadership, 115 armor, mixed in with 44 weapon strength and a bonus versus large and armor piercing damage. These guys are absolutely amazing. They have pretty good combat stats too as well, I must say. So 36 melee attacks, nothing to sneeze at, and 46 melee defense. These guys are going to be holding out so fucking long. So just think about it. Halberds for the Empire and men-at-arms with pole arms for the Bretonnians hold out for so long. Even though they have really low armor for those two factions, their melee defense is so high, they hold out for forever. Tie that in with 115 armor now. So like quadruple the armor and pretty much the same stats, but better damage as well. These guys are amazing, especially because they're immune to psychology. So good. So good. But if you're going to be charged by cavalry, you definitely want to face them, and you want to be in the right spots with these units at all times because they're really slow, but charge defense versus large is going to absolutely be so crucial with these guys because you don't want them getting charged down from the rear while they're moving or anything like that because they'll take a lot of damage that they could negate if they're braced and facing that charge and then absolutely hack apart any cavalry that's coming against them because I'm expecting this anti-large bonus to be quite huge because all their other stats are just amazing. So I'm expecting a lot from these guys. We'll see how they perform though. So if you have missile units, focus these guys down hard, especially if they have armor-piercing attacks, because these guys are going to be just devastating on the field. So moving on from here, also something to note, they have Murderous Prowess, a little bit of a step down from Murderous Mastery, but no less, it's still going to be a pretty big boon whenever that ability activates for the army. So here, War Hydra, it actually causes terror and fear, obviously. It has regeneration, so it's going to have a 20% weakness to fire, but it has another boon for regeneration. Once its HP reaches 50%, so 4,254 is when this threshold will activate. It actually has another boon for regaining HP even quicker. So it'll have like 2 little things of regeneration going at once. So it'll probably be regenerating like 10 HP or something like that per second, I'm expecting, and it's going to be really good. Also, this fire attack has 3 uses, and when it uses it, all these heads come down to use it in a line of sight kind of fire, but very low to the ground. So anybody that's like level with it and really clumped up, like if you have like 3 units bunched together fighting a single spearman unit and you use this attack on the flank and you just go straight through all those units, it's going to devastate them. Because what I've seen so far is any unit that's touched by this flaming attack coming out of the War Hydra instantly dies. So if you can go through like 3 units with this fire breath, all of those units and the 3 units that are being hit by this fire attack are going to die. It might look like they're just getting knocked down at first, but they're not going to stand up. They're dead. So also really good stats coming out of this War Hydra as well. So not the best for the melee defense, but really good melee attack. So hitting single targets like a Lord, especially with their 440 weapon strength with armor-piercing damage, really important. Putting this guy in a fight with Malekith, who's going to be able to tank out a lot of damage while this War Hydra is pumping in just tons and tons of damage and able to regenerate itself from any splash damage it receives, is going to be huge. It's going to be huge. Especially with this 46 speed, that's pretty fast. Faster than all your infantry. Leadership isn't the highest at 65, but it'll do, definitely for a monster if buffed up by like the leadership of the Lord and its flanks are secure and other stuff like that. And 50 armor is pretty good as well, especially when tied in with that missile resistance. So it shouldn't be focused down by missile units too hard because it does have that good regeneration. So Scaly Scan, I think it's like 20 to 25% missile resistance. We'll have to see though. So moving on, let's see. All right, here we have the Bleak Sword, so silver shield and 30 armor compared to the Empire swordsmen who have a bronze shield, I believe, and pretty similar stats, pretty decent weapon strength, pretty good charge bonus as well. Nothing special out of these guys. 66 leadership, they'll be in the fight for a little bit, but if they get too scared or fear and terror take them, they'll be routing quite quickly. So be cognizant of what these guys are actually doing because they're not going to be staple troops that are going to hold down for forever. So very important to remember what's happening to these guys because if they start routing, that's a flank gone and they're just going to get chased down and annihilated and potentially you're going to lose like your shades back here, which they highlight next, I believe. So keep an eye on these guys. Okay, they don't highlight the shades next, but they do highlight the Black Ark Corsairs who are recruited directly from the Black Arks themselves, and they do have pretty good stats. So bonus versus infantry with that dual sword, so 28 weapon damage plus the bonus, and they have a pretty good charge bonus of 16 right here. Stats are pretty similar to the Bleak Swords, but they have a higher speed at 40. Leadership's the same, but they have 80 armor here. No shield, obviously, because dual sword, but 80 armor is pretty good, and they'll be doing a lot of work in the front line for sure. So good stuff coming out of them. Keep moving on, and I believe we're going to get to the Shades finally. So the Shades are very, very good units as well. And when we get to the dark shards and stuff like that as well, next, after these guys, beautiful. I love the dark shard unit. They're going to be so good in this game as well. So I'll explain why in just a moment. So these guys, 30 armor, they're a missile infantry. I don't really expect too much out of them, honestly. Speed of 42, though, that's pretty nice. I like that. They're pretty quick, pretty decent weapon stats, and melee attack, melee defense, and ammunition is at 16, so a little bit lower than most units. Range of 125, outranges other armor-piercing infantry for the most part. So most armor-piercing missile attacks, excluding the Wood Elves, are just from like handgunners or axe throwers. So they outrange axe throwers, but they don't outrange handgunners or thunderers. And they don't outrange the Starfire shafts with from the Glade Guard, because they have 170 range, I believe, or 160, something like that. But these guys, once they get into combat, because they have really quick speed, so once they get in range, they'll be able to do their damage pretty quickly without taking too much, because they have that speed to close the distance first. So good stuff coming out of them. Vanguard deployment and stock, so pretty important to keep that in mind, that they're going to be good skirmishing forces too before the battle even starts. But you might want to make sure that they stay pretty well protected, because they're really low armor. If they get charged, it's going to be really punishing. Moving on to the Dark Shards. Now, this is a unit I'm so excited for. Not only do they look really good, let me just make sure. Holy shit, 1440, but still doesn't look the best right here, but whatever. So, the Dark Shards, I'm very excited for them, because not only do they also have missile damage that's armor piercing, but they have more ammunition than the Shades, and they also have their shield active at all times. So, they're going to win every single missile engagement, no matter who it's against. Whether it's against Quarrelers, Thunderers, handgunners, or anything like that. I would wager that these guys are probably going to win every single time, because Thunderers typically do really well because they have armor-piercing attacks, and they have so much armor that they can back up all the damage that they take, but they don't have shields. Yes, Quarrelers and Thunderers and all of them have shields once they get into combat that they can put up to block missile attacks, but when they're firing, their weapons are so big that they can't actually use their shield, whereas these guys have their shield active at all times because their little handbow is just so small and nimble. They can block all of these shots. So 55% of all missile shots are going to be blocked coming in against these guys. Huge. These guys are going to win so many missile engagements, but you just got to make sure you get them into range and doing good damage, and they don't get kited, because if they get kited, they're probably going to get shut down in the long run. But if your opponent isn't paying attention to how these guys are actually fighting, they're going to win every missile engagement, and they're going to be able to do a lot more damage against like cavalry or any heavily armored targets they can get their hands on. So good stuff coming out of these guys. Very excited. Good micro will reward you quite heavily with these units, so very good stuff coming out of them. Moving on, though, to the Reaper Bolt Throwers. And these guys, shitty stats for your cannons crews and all that stuff like that, as expected. Charge bonus of 2, good for you guys. 340 range. I believe cannons have 400 range. I can't quite remember off the top of my head, though. But their missile damage, I keep right-clicking. I'm so sorry, guys. Their missile damage, though, is armor-piercing and bonus versus large, because I believe they have 2 different types of shots, which is their multi-shot and their single-shot type, which does well versus clumps of infantry or good versus single targets. The single shot is good versus large targets and all that kind of stuff, and is very high armor-piercing damage, so good stuff coming out of that. So just be sure you're microing this unit depending on what you want it to fire at. Just it's going to kind of require a couple clicks here and there, but it should do good for you if you pay attention to what you're doing with it. So micro is going to be a little bit important for these guys, as well as those dark shards like I was talking about. So keep an eye on all your ranged units for the Dark Elves. That's important. Then we get to the Khainite Assassin. Now, I just want you guys to understand what the fuck is happening with this fucking unit. 800 missile damage? What the hell? Like, what the hell? Like, what the hell? Alright, and then 50 ammunition. This guy won't run out of ammo for an entire fight. Like, even if he's just sitting here shooting non-stop, just going, like, click, 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 just shooting bows over and over and over. Or arrows, or bolts, excuse me, goddamn, crossbow. But so much... Why? Why so much missile damage? What the hell is going on with this? I don't know if CA actually meant for that or not, and I don't know if he has tracking arrows like the Waystalkers do from the Wood Elves, but if he has like those like magical arrows that track the target and kind of curve with their movements, this is gonna be really, really painful to deal with. Yeah, he only has 70 range, but like people don't expect like the Rangers from the Dwarves. When people land on the Dwarves who have stock as well and only have 70 range for their throwing axes, those throwing axes and 2 volleys can kill Manfred on his zombie dragon. Three units of Rangers can kill Manfred and 2 volleys. I've tested it before, it works. If you have the Ulthar's Raiders and you mark him with the Mark of Ulthar, or whatever it is, that ability that they have, he will die in 2 volleys from 3 Ranger units. No joke. This guy is going to be doing the same shit. So much missile damage. So much ammunition. What the fuck is happening? Not only that, but he's also immune to psychology, so you can't just jump on him real quick and make him flee. He's going to be there for a little bit. Even though he doesn't have the best leadership, he's going to be there for a while, especially with that 43 speed. Melee attack of 70, melee defense of 42, 330 weapon strength, no armor piercing on him though, and not the best charge bonus, and not the best armor either, and not the best health. He's going to be really squishy, so he's going to rely on this ranged attack a lot. I don't know if this is what they really want it to be, but if it is, I'm kind of questioning it, because that's a lot. It's a lot, so we'll figure this out. And he has murderous prowess down here as well, so, and fire on the move, so we'll see how he plays out. It'll be interesting, because I think he can fire in a 360-degree arc, maybe. I'm not sure. We'll have to see, but he can fire on the move for sure, so that's something to keep in mind. Moving on, I don't know if they actually highlight any more units. I think that's pretty much it. It is. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute here and let this guy do his talking, and I'll just kind of jump in anytime I feel something important comes up. So let's just go ahead and enjoy this battle.
And an idea of the gameplay. For most of the cinematic shots, I'll try to be quiet and let you guys enjoy the atmosphere. And on that note, let's begin. Now a quick reminder is that we have a black arc reinforcing us in this battle, which gives us additional bombardment support. So we're going to try and clump up the overwhelming numbers of the High Elves to call down that support on them. As well as that, when we kill a certain amount of enemies, we'll get our murderous prowess effect army-wide, which will increase our attack and charge by 25% and give smaller increases to leadership and missiles. So the basic plan is to devastate as much as possible early on to buff all of our troops to achieve maximum damage output.
Some good micro right there,
I had
pulling
to pull
those
my
witch elves
back
behind them.
and let the Blackguard take over as they were about to get charged by some...
Yeah, I was about to say that myself. So these Blackguard and Nagaron are just going to destroy this cavalry unit, both of these cavalry units right here, especially because they're against the War Hydra and Malekith over there. So that cavalry's out of the game. It just does atrocious friendly fire with those Reaper bolt throwers. So keep an eye out for that, because they're getting beat up pretty hard. So that's unfortunate. And the Moon Dragon comes in with its breath attack. Oh god, yes, that's what I was waiting for. If you didn't see it, it actually starts shooting in the background, like right around here. So it flies up and you see it shooting into the back, and then they highlight that attack. It's just, it does so much damage too. It's a little bit more focused as well, because they said the Sun Dragon is going to be doing like an AoE kind of like this instead, so it's really inaccurate, whereas this one's kind of like how it did right here. Whereas the Star Dragon, though, is going to be like, oh, you want this unit right here dead? Well, I'll hit right there. So they said it's more like a Death Star laser than a bombardment, just like a barrage all over the place with these guys. So that's something to keep in mind, too. They don't show its stats, sadly, but, you know, what can you do? We'll find out when the game comes out, I guess, unless they decide to highlight them all. So, continuing on, I'm going to go ahead and let this guy talk again.
Completely. We'll get our shades to focus on the Illyrian Reaver archers, which have flanked me. They should be able to take them down pretty easily at this range.
Oh man, this missile attack right here is going to devastate those horse archers. Yeah, look at them. They're losing so many men right there.
Just got my Hydra out of the main combat now, so we'll look to target some of these archers that are peppering me from a distance.
Alright, now this ranged fire attack does do a lot of damage for the Hydra. It only hit a few units, but every unit that it hit, except for one right there, did not stand up. They're all dead. But it's going to use 2 more breath attacks, so all 3 of its attacks will be used in this game. But the second one is a little bit lackluster as well, but that third one is just such a juicy target. When that comes up, I'm going to highlight the fuck out of that because it is so devastating. It did so much damage. But clumping your units, especially in campaign with all these bombardment abilities and stuff like that, or just the magic, or just the abilities from monsters in Warhammer 2, whether it's campaign or online, is going to be so punishable. So in Warhammer 1, vortexes were so lackluster, and I think I said vortexes, yeah, right? Vortexes, excuse me. Vortexes were super lackluster, so not the best stuff coming out of them in Warhammer 1. But in Warhammer 2, vortexes are going to be absolutely destructive. They're going to just destroy everything. So it is so important that you have such good micro for your units that you don't blob them up. Like, yeah, it's okay to engage like a couple units here and there, but like the Dwellers Below spell currently in the game, it's going to fuck up any units that are clumped up. Like the War Hydra, like I said, is going to absolutely tear apart units. And also Wind Spell's got a big change. They're going to highlight that in a little bit, I think. So Wind Spells now are actually a 2-click ability that you have to activate. So how it works is you click where you want it to be, and then you rotate your mouse to face it in whatever direction you want, and then you click again, and it'll activate. So right here, it's actually going to do it. No longer would you have to be like Manfred on a Hellsteed right here, facing this line of archers. And you'd have to be like right here, and you aim it right here, and it goes straight through like this. Malekith's down here, so like at a diagonal angle, he's going to cast it up here, and then face it through these guys, and then cast it again. And that's going to be how Winds of Death and everything like that works. And it's going to be so important that you keep an eye on all that. Or maybe he doesn't do it. Yes, he does it right here. So look, see how he clicked and then clicked again after he faced it where he wanted it to go? Now this isn't the most powerful wind spell I've ever seen. It might have been just because these guys weren't blobbed up as much as like a front line just standing still, but Manfred being able to do this in game 1 is going to be brutal. Sorry, I got a text message right there. It's going to be brutal because if you don't have a good micro and you don't see that spell going off and move your army, they're going to die. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've played, like, any matchup versus anybody as the vampire counts and used a Wind of Death on somebody that wasn't paying attention or microing elsewhere, and they just use, like, they lose, like, 3 or 4 units, maybe 5 units if I can really, like, space it correctly. It's going to be devastating. You're really going to have to keep an eye on all your stuff in this game. So Winds of Death is probably going to end up being exactly the same as this little Ice Wall spell that Malekith just casted. So keep that in mind, guys. That is a huge, huge change. Definitely changes up how spells play out. And like I said, clumping up units is going to be very punishable. So we're going to continue on, let him keep talking.
Now you can actually rotate wind spells, so that makes them much more effective. Our cavalry is just freed up now, so we'll take a look for a new target to send them into. I think the battle is starting to turn in our favor. This clump of troops is still pretty big on our left, so let's throw down the Blade Wind Vortex to get them up out of here.
Alright, so he goes to a little bit of a cinematic shot right here, and something to remember also is if you use the Thunderbolt out of the Celestial Magic with the Light Wizard, or whoever it may be that has the Lore of Heavens, or Celestial Magic, I can't remember which one it is, or what it's called right now. I keep forgetting all these names. The Thunderbolt ability is really, really good against single targets, not a bunch of troops like this. Like if you cast it on a steam tank, the Thunderbolt will do like 2 to 3k damage. No joke. It'll decimate that steam tank after a couple attacks. Very, very powerful spell. Lords as well take a little bit of damage too, but sometimes they're too small to get hit or flying too far or too fast to be able to hit with that ability. So keep that in mind. But this vortex right here, if all vortexes are like this now in the game, like I said, clumping, and I cannot reiterate this enough, clumping is going to be the death of everything in this game. Holy fuck. Watch this vortex. Watch what this vortex does to every single person it touches. Watch what it does. Like in the High Elf Princess right there firing in. Very nice stuff. Look at this vortex. Look at it go. Watch it. Hurry up. Oh my fuck. All those people dropped their shields. That means they're dead. If they didn't just get knocked over, they dropped their shields, they fell to the ground, they're fucking dead. That killed like 50 people right there. This vortex killed like 50 fucking people. That's insane. Do not clump your units in this game, please. This will happen to you over and over. Holy shit. Now, I don't know if this is like a really high armor piercing spell or not, because the High Elf Spearmen don't have the most armor, but either way, how quickly it killed everybody is testament to how powerful it is. Look at that. Look at that huge group of people just fucking die like that. Holy shit. Oh my god.
Nice, that pretty much took them all out.
Yeah, no
We just have
shit.
a few straggler units to deal with now.
Alright, so they're gonna show off another breath attack pretty soon with the War Hydra.
Too, so we'll need to take them out and their lord if we want to wrap their army.
But it's still not the one I want you guys to see. The last one is like over here somewhere in the video.
We'll get our bow throwers to fire on the archers too. It looks like I forgot to put them on guard mode, so we'll have to redirect their fire.
Here comes that breath attack, I think.
Just surrounded their princess now, so we'll debuff her and hopefully take her down. Also,
So
this is a perfect group to use our War Hydra on.
It is a perfect group, but it targets a clump where there's not a lot of people, so it becomes really ineffective and doesn't get as many kills as it could. But look at that. Everybody get hit pretty much died. Like, I'm not joking about this ability. It is very punishing. You'll see it in this third attack. Oh man, I can't wait for this game. It's just the cinematics of this game.
Eagle are just about to rout.
So fucking good. Everything about this game is just so beautiful. I'm loving it all. And he talks right here about like, oh yeah, I used this bombardment ability on them and they moved. Good for the AI. Well, they do that in Warhammer 1 too. Sometimes they don't really like notice it, or they're like distracted doing something. I don't know how the AI completely functions. Honestly, it's an AI, not a computer. But they do seem to be dodging a lot more in this game from spells than they did in previous ones, but overall, spells like bombardments like that, poor Eagle, are going to be pretty devastating to AI troops because they're not computer players, obviously. So right here is when he uses that next breath attack, and it's going to fucking just destroy these guys. Watch this. Watch how many kills he's about to get. Look at all those fucking kills he just got. That was like another like 40 or 50 kills. Oh my god. So I can't tell you guys enough. Like, I've said it like 100 times in this video. Just attacks in this game and abilities that hit clumped units are punishing. It's punishing. So, as always, guys, if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like. Subscribe if you want to see more. Comment it down in the comment section down below if you want to leave any kind of tips or tricks on what I can do better for you, or if you have anything to say on this video and my thoughts on it as well. So just let me know what you guys think and say something down below and I'll respond probably. And as always, guys, I'll catch y'all later.